Hello and welcome to my Guild Wars 1 Critical Strikes skill tier list. So I'm going to go over these skills in Critical Strikes and go over which ones are good, which ones are bad, and why they're good and bad. Good or bad. So to start, let's just look at Critical Strikes, the skill. So when you have 13 Critical Strikes, you gain 3 energy whenever you crit, and you have a 13% increased chance to crit on top of your weapon's base chance to crit, which is, I believe, like roughly like 20%. At like 13 rank. It might be a little bit higher, but that's like close to what it is. So just having high crit strikes increases your chance to crits. That's something to keep in mind when evaluating these skills. So first we're going to start with the elite skills. So Dark Apostasy, your crits remove an enchantment. Removal cost, lose 5 energy. So this isn't a bad skill. Lets you add teardown into your build. The big downside is that this teardown costs you 5 energy at 13 crit strikes. So it essentially costs you 2 energy because you're gaining 3, but then losing 5. So you just lose a net of 2. So this isn't horrible, especially if you're on crit eye. You're only really losing 1 energy. So with these 2 skills and with 13 crit strikes, it costs you 1 energy to remove an enchantment, which isn't bad. Assassins are critting constantly. They attack really fast. You would just be constantly removing enchantments on foes. So this could be A tier when you need the enchant removal. Maybe. Definitely helps with spikes. It's probably closer to B tier, but only when there's enough enchants to remove. Because if first of all, it's single target. So if it hit multiple things, it'd be A tier. But because it's single target, it costs you energy. It itself is an enchant that can be torn down. That's definitely B tier. It could be useful, but it depends on the circumstance, and it would require the enemy enchants to be worth tearing down. Also note this can remove Shadow Form. This can remove Obsidian Flesh. This can remove Vow of Silence. So this could be useful, especially to make sure your Mesmers, Ellies, Necros, whatever, have access to cast on these foes. So this could be good in certain situations. So B tier. Locust Fury. This is actually a decent skill because it effectively increases your DPS, because when you're auto-attacking, like if you're out of energy or being drained of energy, this can help you get a bunch of crits in. This can help you attack faster. This also does proc off of dual attacks. I think it just makes them slightly faster. I could be wrong about this, but if you double strike during a dual attack, it's it's instant 1 damage packet. Otherwise, it's 2 hits. I could be wrong about that though, but it mostly is just good for your auto attack. But it makes it so that you are attacking more frequently with your auto attack. But if you're running dagger spam, it's not the best. I would say it's C tier. It's not horrible, but it could be better. Palm Strike, this is a PvP skill. I would say this is largely useless in PvE. Combos with Trampling Ox, but there's better ways, like Brawling Headbutt of just knocking things down. Brawling Headbutt is adrenaline based, and it just, as an assassin, you're constantly getting in hits, building up adrenaline, so you can just just spam Brawling Headbutt and just knock things down constantly. So I'd say this is F tier in PvE. Seeping Wound, this is a PvP skill. I'd say this is not very good in PvE. I'd say it's C tier because at least it deals some good damage. But it costs so much energy. It's a PvP skill. Shattering Assault. Kind of like Dark Apostasy. That's kind of it's kind of like that. It's unblockable, which is nice, and it removes 2 enchantments. I would say this is B tier, like Dark Apostasy, because its damage can be quite high, and the fact that it's unblockable and removes enchants is good. So I'd say it's B tier. You can run it sometimes and it's good. Way of the Assassin, A tier, attacking faster, increasing your crits. This is one of the most useful assassin skills. It also lets you run 15% on your in a stance on your daggers. I actually run these. I have these old school Oni daggers that I have that are 15% in a stance. I always run Way of the Assassin, so definitely A tier. So let's actually go over these skills now. Alright, Assassin's Remedy. Your next 9 attack skills each remove 1 condition. This is largely used in PvP. You can run this in PvE, but it's not the best. So you usually have monks for this and writs to remove your conditions. So I would say this is like C tier utility. You shouldn't really be running this. You have like other things in your team comp that are supposed to do this for you. Black Lotus Strike, get some energy if the foe is hexed. You should probably be running dagger spam. I wouldn't even run this. This is like, I would say this is D tier. Gaining energy on an assassin. You have to spend 10 energy to gain 12. So you're spending 10 energy to get 2 energy. It's just and then if you crit, obviously you get more, but if you're running Way of the Assassin, you're just always critting. Energy's not a problem. Critical defenses, A tier, only on an assassin, because if you don't have crits, guess what? Like if you're a secondary, I think it lasts 3 seconds, and then you're not going to be critting as much an assassin to like maintain this. But on an assassin, it's A tier for tanking. Really good, makes you very tanky, very strong. Also really good in PvP. Critical Eye, A tier, increases your damage output by increasing your crit chance, gain energy, so it makes you efficient and increases your damage, and it's a skill, so it cannot be removed and activates instantly, definitely A tier. Critical Strike, B tier energy management skill. When you're spamming Death Blossom, you're hitting adjacent. If you're running Way of the Assassin and also Crit Eye, you're just never going to run out of energy, basically, so this is just useless in that situation. I'd say it's like C tier. Deadly Haste, half-range spells, cast faster and recharge faster. There's not too many builds or even the half-range skills that are good. I would say this is D tier. Maybe there's like a use case or two, but it's not like the best skill. And there's not really... I mean, this is what comes to mind, because like decreasing the recharge of Seeping Wound, but this thing costs 15 energy. So it's not like you're throwing out insane energy management for like single target damage. That Hex spell that's now going to be like on a 7-second cooldown or something. It's just like, it's not worth it. It's too much energy. I'd say this is like D tier. Malicious Strike. Target foe has a condition. It deals increased damage and is a crit. Other classes can use this. Like if you're wielding a scythe, for example, as an assassin, this is a pretty good skill because you're spec'd into crits. I would say this is actually A tier. It's a guaranteed crit for like for a dagger, but for also a non-dagger weapon that's a melee weapon. So if you're running like a scythe build, and you're running like I don't even know what you'd run for like an assassin with scythe build, but this could be good with a scythe, and it can guarantee you a crit. And if you crit like 3 foes with a scythe, because it's a melee, it inherits the properties of whatever weapon you're using. Like that's how melee attacks work. So you could hit, how a scythe can hit three adjacent to foe. You hit 3 things. You could crit 3 times if they all have conditions, and get 9 energy back or whatever. So that's not bad. Well, if you're running a crit eye, you'd get 12. So it's actually pretty good. So it's pretty decent. I'd say it's like A tier with a scythe, and maybe there's like some other weird builds. Like you probably run like some weird Earthshaker build with this, but it wouldn't be the best. It'd be the best with the scythe. Sharpened daggers. Your dagger attacks inflict bleed. Wow, that's so cool. Too bad Jagged Strike already does that. It's also an enchantment. Doesn't activate instantly. F tier, don't run it. You have Jagged Strike. You're going to be running dagger spam. You should be. I mean... And I really like one of these skills I'm about to go over. So Twisting Fangs, good for spiking. Deep Wound and Bleed. This can be useful in PvE, so like you could run your dagger spam. Like let's say your dagger spam is skills 1 through 3, and then you also have Twisting Fangs to use on a single target to spike it. So like if there's no adjacent for Death Blossom to proc off of, you can use Twisting Fang on single target or on like a priority target to put Deep Wound and Bleed on them. So I'd say it's like B tier. You can also put Deep Wound on things with Golden Fang Strike, which is just a little bit better because it's spammable. So like in your dagger spam chain, what you could run would be Fox Fangs, Jagged Strike, and then Golden Fang. So you would either go 1, 2, 4 or 1, 3, 4. So it'd still be quick, and you could even just run this. The downside is this is on a 4-second cooldown, so you'd really want Fox Fangs, so that you're constantly getting chains off. So, but I would say it's like B tier, like Twisting Fangs. All right, so Unsuspecting Strike. This is mostly a PvP skill. I love this skill, but it sucks in PvE because things are just always getting damaged and nothing's gonna be at full health. So you're not gonna get that fat like 150 damage hit in, and it costs 10 energy. This is really good on PvP where everyone's health is constantly being refilled to full. It's just a great opening to a chain. It's just a lot of damage out of nowhere because assassins attack fast. So, like if you just shadow step to like a monk who's like guardian ends or something and then hit him with unsuspecting strike, it can hit up to like 150, and that's a lot of damage for a 2 second cooldown. And if they heal themselves, you can do it again in 2 seconds. So it's pretty cool. It's good in PvP. Dagger spam's also good in PvP. But I would say in PvE, this is like C tier, unfortunately. Things are always going to be below 90%. Like, unless you're shadow stepping in, unsuspecting strike. It's also single target damage. You want to get to Death Blossom as fast as possible. Dagger spam gets you to Death Blossom as fast as possible. So this is C tier. Way of the Master, I'd say B tier. I'm gonna re-rate Malicious Strike as B tier. I'm not sure that the Scythe Assassin is as good as it was before they nerfed the crit damage. But I'm going to say both of these are like B tier. There's some builds that run Way of the Master that are decent. But yeah, that's my Critical Strikes tier list. Overall, I would say it like averages kind of like B tier. There aren't like the best skills in here. Some notable skills. I'll just kind of pull some out. Let's see what else. Like notable skills that are like actually run are like these. Maybe Deadly Haste, but I doubt it. These are the standout skills to me, especially critical defenses and crit eye. Most builds like that I run one of these, and I usually run Way of the Assassin. And if you run both of these together, you essentially have infinite energy because every time you crit, you get 4 energy back, and your crit chance is so high between your base crit from your dagger, your increased crit from your crit strikes, your increase from crit eye, and your increase from Way of the Assassin. It's just like you're just always critting. So. And that increases your damage output too, because crits deal increased damage. So definitely objectively useful. And then critical defenses, like this with dagger spam, is pretty good because you're tanky now against physical. So very useful. And then of course, if you want to get extra tanky, you can always opt into one of my favorite skills for my factions only, Dark Escape. It's just like you hit a button and you take half damage. It's amazing. Or alternatively. There's better things to run as a player. I don't know if I have the PV skill, but Shadow Sanctuary just gives you 40 armor. You could also run Feign Neutrality. Just become plus 80 armor. You would just use this to tank. Like if the entire enemy team is like focusing you in hard mode, plus 80 armor, you're going to be very tanky. And you would just use this temporarily. So this is really useful. Death's Retreat is useful. Heart of Shadow is useful. Return is useful, just for like getting out of trouble. You can always run Shroud of Distress as well instead of this, or with it, but you'd probably just run one or the other. But yeah, these are the standout skills. I would say overall it's like B tier for like the skills it brings to the table. Shattering Assault isn't bad. Dark Apostasy isn't bad. But these are like the standout skills. So yeah, that's the end of this one. Thanks for checking out, and I'll see you in the next one.